This lesson is a study of First Chronicles chapters 12 and 13. In 12, we back up in time as literature in this part of the world pays no attention to chronology. In chapter 11, we were in Hebron and Saul has already died. Here in 12, we're back in Ziklag, where David had hidden himself from Saul when he was chasing him. Chapter 12, 1 Chronicles, verse 1, and it reads, Now these are they that came to David in Ziklag, while he yet kept himself close because of Saul the son of Kish, and they were among the mighty men, helpers of the war. Now, Ziklag would have been in territory that was allotted to the Simeonites. Now, he started with a ragtag army of 200. It would grow to 4 to 6 and to thousands as he became king and began to develop his kingship. He was not allowed to build the house of the Lord because of the bloodshed that he had been a part of. This honor went to his son Solomon. David started out as a young man and killed Goliath. He was fearless. He said, I come in the name of the Almighty. And he was a very brave person. Verse 2, They were armed with bows and could use both the right hand and the left in hurling stones and shooting arrows out of a bow, even of Saul's brethren of Benjamin. And these warriors would fight with both hands, and Ziklag belonged to Simeon, and the Simeonites had lost that to the Philistines. And 2 times, though, David takes refuge at Ziklag. At one point, he faked craziness at the gate of Gath of Achish, and he formed a relationship with Achish, who was a Philistine, because Achish knew that his enemy was Saul, and he knew that David's enemy was Saul, so he assumed David to be his friend. 3. The chief was Ahiezer, then Joash, the sons of Shemaiah, the Gibeathite, and Jeziel and Pelet, the sons of Azmarveth, and Barakah, and Jehu the Anathothite. Okay, that, of course, if it said that he had Benjaminites who were fighting with him, and they would have been kinsmen of Saul, as Saul was a Benjamite. And this, at the last mention there, Anathothite, that was one of those refuge cities and priest city where priests were housed and where a person could go in seeking refuge. Let's say he had accidentally killed someone and he could take refuge from possible retribution by the kinspeople by going to one of those refuge cities. 4. And Ishmael the Gibeonite, a mighty man among the 30, and over the 30, and Jeremiah, and Jehaziel, and Johanan, and Josabad the Gederahite. And that would have been a city in Judah. These 30 are mighty fighting men, and they would have been excellent warriors. 5. Elizai and Jeremoth and Benaiah, Shemariah and Shephatiah the Haparite. And 6. Elkanah, Jesiah, and Azariel, and Joezel, Jashobeam, the Korahites. Now these are all Levitical names. Korahites, this means that some of the descendants of Korah did indeed live. Korah, we learned in earlier parts of the Old Testament that he and 250 who were not priests, he had a following of 250, and they burned incense, a job of the priest. And the earth opened and swallowed Korah and the 250 who had sided with him against Moses. 7. And Jehoram and Joelah, and Zebadiah, the sons of Jehoram of Gedor. 8. And of the Gadites there were separated themselves unto David, unto the whole, to the wilderness, men of might and men of war, fit for the battle, that could handle shield and buckler, whose faces were like the faces of lions, and were as swift as the roes upon the mountains. These are indeed excellent warriors. And the buckler would have been a small spear in a sheath back behind the shoulder blades. And the imagery of faces like a lion simply means that they were fierce and they could run like a roe or a deer. They were fast on their feet. 9. Ezer the first, Obadiah the second, Eliab the third. And that name means, Eliab means God has bestowed. 10. Mishmanah the fourth, Jeremiah the fifth. This is not Jeremiah the prophet, but another Jeremiah. 11. Atalai the sixth, Eliel the seventh. 12. Johanan the eighth, Elizabad the ninth. 13. Jeremiah the 10th, Machbani the 11th. 14. These were the sons of Gad, captains of the host. One of the least was over 100, and the greatest was over 1,000. So this tells you that the chief, they could take on at least 100 men or 1,000. One solitary person could take 100 alone, and the greatest could take 1,000. 15. These are those that went over Jordan in the first month when it had overflown its banks, and they put to flight all of them of the valleys, both toward the east and toward the west. That would be, they had crossed from the east side. If they went in the first month, that is called Abib or Nisan. There are times when the Jordan is down and can be waded, but not in the month of Abib. It would have been flooded, and it would have been a difficult passage, but it cut way through to those who were supporting Saul. It put them in a good position against those who were with Saul and who were trying to take David's life. 16. And there came of the children of Benjamin and Judah to the hold unto David. Once again, Benjamin, Saul's very tribe. We have another famous Benjamite in the Apostle Paul, also a Benjamite. 17. And David went out to meet them, and answered and said unto them, If ye be come peaceably unto me to help me, mine heart shall be knit unto you. But if ye be come to betray me to mine enemies, seeing there is no wrong in mine hands, the God of our fathers look thereon and rebuke it. So he answered to these strangers who have come in here. Excuse me, I did not mean to say strangers. He said he answered to I, and the Strong's concordance, he's saying, are you peaceful? And knit would mean as one. No violence, but it's not used against Saul. He had two opportunities. David did to kill Saul, and he did not because he respected that Saul was anointed. Okay, verse 18. Then the Spirit came upon Amaziah, who was chief of the captains, and he said, Thine are we, David, and on thy side, thou son of Jesse, peace, peace be unto thee, and peace be to thine helpers, for thy God helpeth thee. Then David received them and made them captains of the band. And that spirit in the Hebrew is ruach. And he has said, this person speaking has said, we know, David, that you are chosen. And David took these persons who had come over from the east side of the Jordan to help him in his fight against Saul. 19. And there fell some of Manasseh to David when he came with the Philistines against Saul to battle, but they helped them not. For the lords of the Philistines, upon advisement, sent him away, saying, He will fall to his master Saul, to the jeopardy of our heads. There fell some. It means they were deserters, and Saul would have considered them deserters. And we learn in 1 Samuel verse 29 that Achish, this Philistine, wanted David to join in with him and the Philistines against Saul. And Achish is over Gath, and that's only one of 5 of the kings that were over the Philistines. Manasseh is an offspring of Joseph. 20. And as he went to Ziklag, there fell to him of Manasseh Adnah and Joazad and Jediael and Michael and Jozabad and Elihu and Zuthai, captains of the thousands that were of Manasseh. Manasseh also had helped against the Amalekites, and once again, the tribe of Manasseh and Ephraim and Manasseh were the offspring of David, representing offspring of Joseph, representing his double portion. 21. And they helped David against the band of the rovers, for they were all mighty men of valor and were captains in the host. And all of them were restored what had been taken by the Amalekites. And you can see we've named many names and many tribes here, and we can see the growing support in this chapter for David. 21. And they helped David against the band. We did that one, 22. For at that time, day by day, there came to David to help him until it was a great host, like the host of God. So you see, David has amassed a mighty army, and these are coming to him voluntarily from all over the country. 23. And these are the numbers of the bands that were ready armed to the war and came to David to Hebron to turn the kingdom of Saul to him according to the word of the Lord. And these were all seasoned warriors. And in this verse, we're back to Hebron, so we're going forward. David was in Hebron 7.5 years, and he ruled over Judah. And then his capital moved to Jerusalem, where he reigned for a number more years. 24. The children of Judah that have shield and spear were 6,800 ready armed for the war. Now, Judah, they were David's own tribe, and this is quite a little small number considering the numbers from these other tribes who have joined in this battle. 25. Of the children of Simeon, mighty men of valor for the war, 7,100. Now, Simeon would have been geographically close to Judah, and the Simeonites figure mightily in their closeness to Judah over the history of the nation. Of the children of Levi, 4,600. Now, these Levites join in because they know Saul is doing wrong. Their nights are priests, and their chief priest, and then they had two high priests. They had one in Zadok and one in Gibeon, and Gibeon was where the Ark of the Covenant was housed at this time. 27. And Jehoiada was the leader of the Aaronites, and with him there were 3,700. Jehoiada would have been the leader here of the Aaronites, and they were, as I said, priests. 28. And Zadok, a young man mighty of valor, and of his father's house 22 captains. And he would have been a descendant of Eleazar, the son of Aaron. 29. And of the children of Benjamin, the kindred of Saul, 3,000, for hitherto the greatest part of them had kept the ward of the house of Saul. So we're seeing that the Benjamites, a great many of them, are holding with Saul, who is their kin. 30. And of the children of Ephraim, 20,800, mighty men of valor, famous throughout the house of their fathers. Ephraim, of course, once again, a offspring of Joseph, and this is the largest. And you have the half tribe of Manasseh on the west side, and then on another on the east with Gad and Reuben. These were those who asked to have the territory on the east side of the Jordan, and they were allowed to establish their wives, children, and cattle, but they were required to go across the Jordan to help the other tribes take the land. 31. And of the half tribe of Manasseh, 18,000, which were expressed by name to come and make David the king. And that was the half tribe that was on the west side. 32. And of the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times, to know that what Israel ought to do. The heads of them were 200, and all their brethren were at their commandment. Issachar in here, 200 chiefs, and when it said they had understanding, they had good judgment and common sense, a valuable asset in battle. 33. Of Zebulun, such as went forth to battle, experts in war, with all instruments of war, 50,000, which could keep rank. They were not of a double heart. So they were singular minded, these 50,000, and to keep rank meant that they knew how to keep a battle in array. And they are not double-minded, and they are committed to bringing David to the throne. And this is the largest of all who came to Hebron. 34. And of Naphtali, 1,000 captains, and with them with shield and spear 37,000. 35. And of the Danites, expert in war, 28,600. And of Asher, verse 36, such as went forth to battle, expert in war, 40,000. 37, and on the other side of Jordan, of the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh, with all manner of instruments of war for the battle, 120,000. So you see, that Manasseh is called a half tribe because half of Manasseh settled on the west side and half on the east with the Gadites and the Reubenites. Now, can you see what a massive army David is collecting? Now, we are reminded that the books of Chronicles are from God's viewpoint. The Samuel and the Kings, those 4 books called really the books of Kings, are told from the viewpoint of man. So what does this tell us? It tells us that Saul is not going to kill David. Why? Because the key of David is our key to understanding. David is the ancestor of Jesus, and this rallying of troops, it means that God's hand is at play. 38. All these men of war that could keep rank came with perfect heart in Hebron to make David king over all Israel, and all the rest also of Israel were of one heart to make David king. So they are loyal and they are supporters and intend to see that David is the king. 39. And there were with David 3 days, eating and drinking, for their brethren had prepared for them. This means that the provisions, they had brought in provisions, and they had made this kind of support that would be required for this kind of an army. 40. Moreover, they that were nigh them, even unto Issachar and Zebulun and Naphtali, brought bread on asses and on camels and on mules and on oxen, and meat, meal, cakes of figs, and bunches of raisins, and wine, and oil, and oxen, and sheep abundantly, for there was joy in Israel. So these quite a bit of food and drink and animals that could be slaughtered, and to make way for David to be the king. And we are reminded that at one point when David becomes the king, that he goes after the Ark of the Covenant. It had been taken from by the Philistines, and they put it in their house of worship, and their god was Dagon, a fish god. He had a fish body, and they put it in there, and Dagon fell, and they put him back up, and the next day Dagon's head was off in his hands, and they put the ark on an ox cart and just drove some oxen out toward Israel. And it remained there until David went after it. And the first time, of course, it was not a success, but they bothered to read God's word on how the ark was to be moved, and successfully did bring the ark back into the temple. Chapter 13. And David consulted with the captains of thousands and hundreds, and with every leader. So he is consulting because he wants to go to Kirjath-jearim for the ark, because it's been gone for 80 years. 2. And David said unto all the congregation of Israel, If it seem good unto you that it be of the Lord our God, let us send abroad unto our brethren everywhere that are left in the land of Israel, and with them also to the priests and Levites which are in their cities and suburbs, that they may gather themselves unto us. So he is calling for all of the representatives to come in and gather unto him. 3. And let us bring again the ark of our God to us, for we inquired not at it in the days of Saul. So they never sought during the time of Saul to bring this ark back. 4. And the congregation said that they would do so, for the thing was right in the eyes of the people. So, was it right in the eyes of the people, or have they consulted God? 5. So David gathered all Israel together from Sihor of Egypt even unto the entering of Hemath, to bring the ark of God from Kirjath-jearim, where it had been put after the Philistines let it go. Now, the cities mentioned here would be from the extreme south to the north, and all of these, he gathered the congregation. These would have been the representatives of all of the peoples. 6. And David went up, and all Israel, to Baalah, that is, to Kirjath-jearim, which belonged to Judah, to bring up thence the ark of the Lord, the ark of God the Lord, that dwelleth between the cherubim, whose name is called on it. So they intend to go and to retrieve the Ark of the Covenant. 8. And David and all Israel played before God with all their might, and with singing, and with harps, and with psalteries, and with timbrels, and with cymbals, and with trumpets. So they have joyously rejoiced and sung and danced and played, and they thought this would please the Lord. 9. And when they came into the threshing floor of Shidon, Uzzah put forth his hand to hold the ark, for the oxen stumbled. So they have put the ark on a cart like the Philistines did. Now, Uzzah has reached out and touched the ark, and he was the son of Abinadab. And even in Numbers 4:15, we learn that even the Kohathites are not to touch the ark. Now, the ark properly transported, excuse me, the Kohathites were in charge of transporting the ark. The ark had rings. The Kohathites inserted wooden poles in those rings and carried that ark on their shoulders. It was their task to move the ark, and no other part of the Levitical tribe were to undertake this mission. 10. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and he smote him because he put his hand to the ark, and there he died before God. And you think, oh, what a terrible thing that God struck this person dead, and all he did was try to keep the ark from falling off the ox cart. Well, this is equivalent to today playing church, not following the rules. God laid down a specific way to move the Ark of the Covenant. Perhaps the Philistines, because they were not Israelites and part of the chosen, got away with touching the ark, but not in this way. 11. And David was displeased because the Lord had made a breach upon Uzzah. Wherefore that place is called Perez Uzzah to this day. And that name place means breach. 12. And David was afraid of God that day, saying, how shall I bring the ark of God home to me? He didn't know, which means, where was the writings? Why had they not read how God instructed that the ark be moved? 13. So David brought not the ark home to himself to the city of David, but carried it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. And Obed-Edom was a Levite, a priest, and he would have known how to take care of the Ark of the Covenant. 14. And the ark of God remained with the family of Obed-Edom in his house 3 months, and the Lord blessed the house of Obed-Edom and all that he had. And this is because that he knew how to take care of the ark, and God blesses us when we do things correctly. Thank you for watching. This is an outreach of the Essex Methodist Church in Essex, Missouri, and the Crossroads Global Methodist Church in Dexter, Missouri.